House of Ashes is the third installment of the Dark Pictures anthology. This entry features a brand new war-torn setting, all new gameplay, and some super spooky monsters. I'm Kim Horcher, and to help answer all of our burning questions from the brand new trailer is game director Will Doyle. Hey, Will.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for this. It's scary. For those not familiar with the series, the Dark Picture seems to fit in the horror and psychological genre. What type of game should they be expecting?
Sure. The Dark Pictures anthology is a series of standalone narrative horror games, each of them exploring a different genre of horror. So with House of Ashes, what we're looking at here is what we call exploration horror, or just a type of action horror in a way. So you've seen these movies before. It's about a group of experts that are all put together and sent off to the far corners of the world on some big investigation, and cut off from their friends and support. They get into all sorts of trouble. In House of Ashes, you will have it's a group of soldiers set in the 2003 Iraq War, and cut off from support. They end up plunging into the ruins of a Sumerian temple, where they discover some really nasty creatures.
It's cool that we're switching the genre a little bit within the horror main genre, but that's not the only change that's coming to this game. Mainly we're looking at camera alterations. So House of Ashes seems to have more of a free cam with a flashlight that provides light. Why go with this perspective versus what was done in the past?
So really, we found that when we were experimenting with it, actually in Little Hope, there's certain sections where you're given full camera control, Little Hope being the second game of the anthology. We found that it actually creates a very immersive atmosphere. It puts you right there with your character. It allows you to look around as they look around. And in the environment that we were exploring, this sort of underground temple, it really sort of puts you over the shoulder, lets you look around as that character would do. But we also have control of it. We can change the distance at which it's at. So if you enter a large chamber, it can kind of pull back and reveal this huge space. When you go into narrow passageways, it can kind of get in close and get it more intense.
Yeah, I'm already feeling it, if you can't tell. Could you tell us about the 360-degree camera and how that could come into play?
Yeah, so that's. I mean, it's under your control. It's controlled with the right stick, and so as you're walking around, you can rotate the camera completely around your character. And with the torch control, when you hit that button, your character will automatically turn around and shine a light wherever it is in the dark that you're looking. So that's for our kind of exploration sections. But the game is really, really cinematic at the same time. So there'll be moments where you go from exploration into sort of cinematic moments where we use traditional movie cameras to tell those parts of our story.
Yeah, it also seems to be a lot less linear than Little Hope. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's what we're looking at with House of Ashes. Well, with every game that we do, we look at different ways in which we can kind of shake up our system. In our games, you always control 5 characters, and all of them can live and all of them can die during the story. So there's a load of branching just based around that. And we try to avoid falling into just a kind of into the same pattern for that. So we always have to look at, if this character can die at the start of the game, what does that mean at the end of the game? So for House of Ashes, yeah, we've taken a different sort of pattern to the other games, and for every game we do, we will always be shaking it up a little bit.
That's cool. I'm gonna try not to kill my least favorite characters, but we'll see. I mean, it could change up. What's interesting that I noticed was the monsters seem to be a much bigger star of the show this time around. So in terms of design and mocap, what was important to get just right about them? And can you talk about the significance of the monsters existing in the real world of the game as opposed to having been hallucinations previously?
Yeah, sure. It's this House of Ashes is a real creature feature. The monsters are very, very important for the story that we wanted to tell. We wanted to create something that is a sort of a completely non-human creature, something that you can't really relate to. It doesn't have a face that you can comprehend, and it doesn't feel sorry for you. It doesn't think like you do. It just wants to kill you. And there are more than one of them. There are an entire sort of nest of them down there. So yeah, when we were looking at the design of it, we worked with lots of different creature designers and with our different mocap teams to create the nastiest beast that we could. But it was also important because we wanted something that was so inhuman, it would bring out the humanity in the characters. The more hostile this creature became and the less you could sympathize with it, the more the characters in the story are pulled together.
I mean, that's interesting as a uniting force. Going back to the gameplay a little bit, this is the first Dark Pictures game to hit PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So does the game take advantage of the new consoles? Are there any cool controller features maybe?
We don't have controller features, but we do make sure that it looks as best as we can make it on the new consoles. So you'll see more ray tracing, 4K resolution. It really does shine on those new machines. And for the series as a whole, the jump onto next gen opens up a lot of possibilities for us, just in terms of cinematics and lenses that we use. And so yeah, it feels more cinematic. I think it looks and feels more like a sort of high quality movie.
I mean, it's definitely visible in the trailer. But going back to something you mentioned earlier, the monsters are, of course, a huge threat. But a big theme of the game seems to revolve around being stuck in a horrific and impossible situation with people you might not be able to trust. So in your opinion, are the monsters or the difficulties with other humans the bigger antagonist?
Absolutely, yeah. We created a situation where, choosing to base it on a war, that we would have, when they all fall down into this temple, you get characters from both sides of that conflict fall in, and initially they are at odds with each other. Obviously, they were shooting each other a minute ago, and suddenly they're facing up against something else entirely. So those rivalries hold strong throughout the story and create moments of tension and stress throughout, and some big decisions that you have to make. But also, even on the side of the Americans that drop down in there are other stories and tensions between them. So we have the fact that different members in the team are of different ranks, and how are they going to deal with that? That when they're just drop down with a few people, are they going to keep that rank system going, or is that going to go out the window? And there are also some sort of relationship connections between different characters. There's a husband and wife down there, and there's a lot of tension around that as well. So I can't spoil too much there, but yeah, definitely the characters become the big thing, and we explore this theme of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's when everything is up against the wall, do you side with your enemies or look after yourself?
Right. I mean, it's great to see all these different opportunities for division or unity, and they might change as the story goes on. Something you mentioned, though, was the military characters, or characters that were in the military with a real-life active war going on. So what was it like creating a story focused on them? Did you bring in consultants? And does the military training get incorporated into the gameplay as well as the story?
Yeah, we used consultants to make sure that our language and attitude felt right. So it was important to kind of ground it in that 2003 setting. But interestingly, it was also interesting to shine a light on the Iraqi side as well, and to make sure that we treated that side of the conflict responsibly. And we think that with Salim Othman, who's one of our characters, we've created a really, really cool, well-rounded character. It seems to be that whenever we've tested the game in user testing, he always comes out as a really favourable character. So nobody wants him to die. unfortunately, the nature of the game is that that's quite hard in places. So.
All right, I'll be making some difficult choices later. Thank you for shining a light on this, Will. Remember, everyone, House of Ashes releases right in time for Halloween on October 22nd for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, and it's definitely one we can't wait to check out. Will, thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll be right back with even more interviews on our Gamescom Opening Night Live after show right here on IGN.